I have a dilemma. Real dilemma. I can either go to the ETSU Appalachian State baseball game today and go to the UT ETSU softball game. I could, I suppose, at Sullivan South in Unicoi County. We're going to be airing that on 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. But the honest to goodness thing is that I would really want to watch the Penguins tonight. It's probably the swan song. Some habits die hard, you know. I mean, you just... Anyway, I'm Marky Billson, your voice of choice for a new generation of Tri-Cities sports fans, even if I do have my head, yes, in my former home right there, and certainly the Penguins not exactly impressing a whole lot of people this playoff season. Regardless, I'll tell you who people around here hope will be impressive, and that is none other than the Tennessee Volunteers, who will play the ETSU Buccaneers in softball this afternoon, early evening, 6 p.m., over at Betty Basler Field, across from where Jim Mooney Field used to be. However, we will also be talking about spring practice, because the Vols also are coming off of that. We focused a bit on ETSU spring practice yesterday, and if you missed it, the archives of that show are on the 1420 WEMB Sports Radio website. Do yourself a favor. Go look at that website, 1420 WEMB Sports Radio. Go get yourself, get accustomed to it. I think you'll find that it is one of the better websites. Facebook pages, I think, to follow sports and all this. Certainly you're going to get the updates. For instance, if there's a Unicoi County rainout or something, you'll get that. But earlier today, for instance, I posted what was going to be on the show today. And then we're going to have on Daniel Norris, we're not going to have Daniel Norris. We've had Daniel Norris on. I'll be able to speak clearly. Worried about what I dropped to the floor here in the studio, if you mind. What was that? Here we are. But the 1420 WEMB Sports Radio Facebook page will also have what's on today's show. What is on today's show? Would you get to it, Billson? Okay, here we go. Caleb Calhoun, allfortennessee.com. He comes on in the half hour. At UT, did Jared Guarantano and Juan Jennings prove to be a passing combo that will drive the SEC nuts this year? Or is it much to do about nothing, much like Quentin Dormandy was 2 years ago in the orange and white game? Well, I guess we won't know until after the Vanderbilt game, but still. I think that there is a lot to say about what's going on locally in sports when you do consider that ETSU is going to be hosting Appalachian State and UT. And really that's a big thing. I mean, you're talking about not only two geographic rivals, but you're talking about two teams that, at least in football, come in from bigger conferences, and they'll be coming into Johnson City. Now think about that. I mean, what would it ever take for ETSU to host UT in football? Football games at... But if you are saying, UT will never come up to Johnson City again, it's only going to be a once every 53-year proposition that the Vols will play evidently the Buccaneers in men's basketball. But baseball, that's not the way it is. Softball, that's not the way it is. And for that matter, Appalachian State. It's surprising a little bit because you might have thought that ASU and say, we're in the Sun Belt. We're a nationally prominent program now. But when you're talking about sports like baseball, soccer, things like that, the travel budget gets to come out. And they start saying, well, you know what, out of conference, maybe we should play ETSU. It's only a real windy trip around 321, right? So, 6 p.m., couple of ball games coming to ETSU and UT coming to ETSU to play softball. So the old ETSU Appalachian State rivalry is going to be continued. They're talking about, it's the oldest rivalry that ETSU has. That's not surprising. It's one of the closest as well. And for that matter, for how long were they in the same conference? Dustin Kearns from Kingsport, new Mountaineers head men's basketball coach. He'd like to play ETSU in basketball now every year, instead of what the former ASU role was for ETSU. They'd just lose ball players to the Buccaneers. I'm going to remember, actually, during the days in the 90s when, it was between Ed DeChillis and Buzz Peterson to be the ETSU men's basketball coach. And DeChillis had a major rebuilding program, and everybody thought it was going to be Peterson, and it turned out to be DeChillis. And it didn't help DeChillis out that the Bucks lost the first 5 games that he coached against Appalachian State. That didn't help out his cause at all. And so what then occurred was that when they finally defeated Appalachian State, it was like by 25 points or so at the Mini-Dome. That was a big turning point. And again, it didn't really do ETSU a whole lot of favors that Buzz was able to take ASU into the end. They lose a coach to Tulsa these days. It's a whole lot less likely. Anyway, so they're going to do this, but here's the deal. August 31st, that's when ETSU football goes to Boone so that they can get their heads chopped off. So if ETSU, which ought to win this ball game because they're 10, got 10 more victories on the season than does Appalachian State. And frankly, the difference between the Southern Conference and Sun Belt in sports other than football isn't all that great. It'll go up and down, fluctuate. I would take the Southern Conference this year in men's basketball. I think just about everybody else would too. And at one time, the Sun Belt was a real good. That was before any of the contemporary players were even born. I got about that. Yeah, one time Tennessee was in the Southern Conference. Hey, yeah. But the football teams, they'll play again 2019, August, this is 2019, but on August 31st, then again 5 years later, Buccaneers will go to Boone. And that's going to be the realization on what's happening at ETSU, because the Bucks, as I said, they're going to get stomped, and suddenly the programs won't look so equal anymore. Most sports, there isn't a great deal of difference between the Sun. Even as catastrophic as the ETSU women's basketball season was, they defeated Appalachian State. And, baseball. The ETSU website is very willing to tell us that the last 20 meetings between ETSU and Appalachian State, dead even. But here's the deal. App State has 85 football scholarships. ETSU has 63. It's an improvement. They used to only have 15. The Mountaineers probably got more publicity for cracking the FBS top 25 last year and taking Penn State and Tennessee into overtime in recent seasons than they did back in the days when they were winning FCS championships. And back in those days, you have to understand what an FCS football program is thought of. Adam Sandler, The Longest Yard, the remake. See that movie? Mean Machine, pro team, the guards, the whole deal. You know the plot line. And what happens? In the remake, Adam Sandler's Paul Crewe character says, all right, Warden, you need a tune-up game. Like they do in college. When a team plays somebody like Appalachian State. They had become the epitome, even though they had beaten up on Wake Forest many a game, of the team you schedule to beat. Now, I don't know, maybe you could say that Appalachian State is the real-life Mean Machine. There's an angle few have pondered. But regardless, if ETSU wins tonight, the result of the game is going to be as forgotten in 4 months as ETSU taking 2 or 3 in baseball from the Volunteers was a year ago after 59-3. So after After that football game in about 4 months, ETSU to have a real look at their athletic department. Level. I mean, they're winning, except in women's basketball, and that might be a one-season aberration. Who knows, Interesting that they're not, the long knives aren't all out for Brittany Azell, isn't it? And like Holly Warlick, But regardless, a one-time conference mate will remind them that it's football that gets the lion's share of attention. That's the way it's going to be at ETSU when, in 4.5 months, App State continues the tradition. And because of that, even here in their own community, in the Tri-Cities, because it's not that they're just in the shadow of Tennessee and Virginia Tech, SEC and ACC, it's that Appalachian State has taken a step up, has either bought in or will bring in Miami, South Carolina, North Carolina for home football games. ETSU thinks it's a big deal to hire North Carolina's old football coach, to have a legitimate chance to beat the Tar Heels at Kid Brewer Stadium. And to be honest with you, they've got a legitimate chance to do it this September 21st in Chapel Hill. ETSU beats the Mountaineers on the diamond tonight? Yeah, that'll probably happen, considering the Bucs have won 10 more games in ASU this season. But any bragging rights, they're going to be gone in the next 4 months. That's probably a good thing, though, because it's going to force each hand. Now, they can be the big fish in a small pond in a SoCon. About ETSU football, I mean, we're going to get more than yay after losing to Appalachian State than it was being co-Southern Conference champions. Yeah, there's going to be more losing to App State than there was celebrating.